bit ago, looking on some of the prepping pages on Reddit. And I saw an interesting question. It was asking where is the best place to go for societal collapse, ecological collapse, financial collapse, all that kind of stuff. It got me thinking. Well, I've got a ridiculous love for sailboats. And I've got a ridiculous love for sailboats for a good reason. Now, I think, in my personal opinion, to beat a total collapse like that, you know, everything's gone to shit, absolute shit, you know. In my personal opinion, if you have the money, buy a sailboat. Hear me out. Yes, I do live in the desert, so I'm recommending to buy a sailboat. Obviously, it wouldn't work for me, not really too well. There's a lake, you know, that has sailboats. It has a marina in New Mexico, but it's like 100 miles away, so not really feasible for me. But for a lot of you, it might be, and here's why. Sailboat, if you buy the right brand, they last a long time, and it's a floating home that does not require fuel to relocate other than using the inboard or outboard motor to get in and out of dock, or to use it where sailing is impossible, such as let's say the canal, the Cape Cod Canal in Massachusetts. I don't think you can sail. You might be able to, but I'm not too sure. Places like that, you're going to want to motorboat it over there. But hear me out on the sailboat. Now, you might need a little bit more money to get into it, but hear me out. It's a really, really, really good idea. Install a water maker, a large enough water maker, one that's going to produce enough water. A water maker, in simple terms, well, does exactly what it sounds like. It makes water. It takes salt water and converts it into fresh water. I think it does it through like reverse osmosis or something like that. I don't know the whole technicality behind it, but it makes salt water, which, if you have a sailboat on the ocean, you have an unlimited amount of salt water. Converts that salt water into fresh water. Now, obviously, this water maker is going to require maintenance and will break down, but preppers, what you're going to want to do is you want to learn how to do maintenance on it, do repairs on it, and keep spare parts for it. Now, keep spare parts for your spare parts. It's important. So you don't want to have to go back to land if you don't have to and try and find the correct parts. Now, water maker out of the way, now you have an unlimited supply of fresh water. Buy solar. You get a big enough boat, I'd say 53-foot long sailboat. Yeah, 53-footer is going to cost you a bit of money, but in the end it's going to be absolutely worth it, especially if you take good care of it and you get a good brand. Have enough solar. I don't know too much about how solar works or what the best setup for solar would be, but I do know you have about 6 solar panels or so, 6 or 7 solar panels, 100 watts each. And then you add on small windmills and or a water turbine that you can put down in the water while you're moving. This should all definitely generate more than enough electricity for your boat and your needs for as long as you need. So now you have your electricity, water. Well, you're on the ocean, you're on the water. So, fishing poles, spear gun if legal where you're at, fishing nets, any kind of fishing gear. Now, obviously there are some places in the ocean where you're not going to find a whole lot of fish, but stick close to the shore. Don't go 500 miles out if you don't need to. Stay close to the shore. You should have plentiful amount of fish. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, well, the boat could sink and you could lose everything. Yeah, the boat could sink and you could lose everything. Yeah, that is accurate. But the house could catch on fire and or flood and you could lose everything. Keep everything maintained on the boat as maintained as you can possibly keep it. Don't do dumb shit with the boat. You should. Fine. Don't do dumb shit with the house. It should be okay. Same logic applies. The boat might require a little bit more maintenance. Your home is portable. Your home doesn't, for the most part, require fuel to move. Obviously, you're going to want to buy and keep extra sails, spare sails, and then again, spare parts for your spare parts. Keep an extra sail for your spare sail or sails. It's all of them. Sailboats have a bunch of sails. They got a mainsail, jib, spinnaker, all that good stuff. Keep extras for it. They're going to take up a little bit of space. That's why I said get a 53-footer or bigger. You won't have really a whole lot of issues with that. The guys, a 53-foot long sailboat is probably a lot bigger than you think. Sailboats can be real big on the inside. It's kind of like, if anyone has ever seen any of like the Harry Potter Fantastic Beasts movies, anything like that, then it's kind of like the suitcase. If you know what I mean. It's a lot bigger on the the inside than it looks like it is on the outside. It's just an option that a lot of people don't think about. It doesn't even cross their mind. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's not too much of a popular idea, or what. But I mean, it's like I said, I've lived in Massachusetts, so that, and I've had family. I can trace family all the way back to the Mayflower. Mayflower was a sailboat. So, sailing is maybe not directly in my genes, but it's in my history. There are different kinds of sailboats out there. You got your regular, everyday, 1 in a million, or not 1 in a million, dime a dozen fiberglass production boats. Nothing wrong with them. You've got your wooden sailboats, requires a little bit more maintenance. I hear they're actually more comfortable on the ocean than a fiberglass because they shift or they bend with the water. So it's actually a little bit more comfortable, but they do need a little bit more maintenance, and don't take them in fresh water. You can, but I definitely hear that it's not recommended. They are more for ocean. You've got your steel sailboats, which I hear do really good way up north. You want to do like Arctic kind of cruising. And in my opinion, I would imagine steel sailboats are stronger. But I think they're susceptible to corrosion. Maybe. I don't know a whole lot about steel. I know more about fiberglass. And then you've got cement sailboats. Yes, that is a thing. Cement sailboats. Don't I'm not going to say don't get one. I'm not going to say to get one. I don't really know a lot about them. Like I said, I know more about fiberglass and wood than steel or cement. I do, from what I hear, steel is good. Like I said, they're up north. And I don't really know the pros and cons of cement. I think there's more cons than there are pros. But my whole thing saying or recommending to go the way of a sailboat is, if you set it up right, if you keep the maintenance up, and you take care of the boat, and you don't do dumb shit, then you could definitely, most certainly have a, for the most part, self-sustaining vessel that you can live in, which is mobile. You can move in case of an emergency. You know, you're going to want to study the weather patterns for whichever ocean you're going to be on. If you're on the Atlantic, you're going to want to study the Atlantic Ocean weather patterns, Pacific weather patterns, so on and so forth. You're going to want to keep weather tracking equipment, weather monitoring equipment, keep an eye on the weather, avoid dangerous weather if you can. You should be good for the most part. You know, obviously, if you register it in a state and you keep it in the state water, the waters of that state, which allows freedom of firearms, like Texas, something like that, Florida, then you should be fine to keep firearms on the boat. And so long as you are flying the American flag out in international waters, it is perfectly legal for you to have that firearm anywhere on that boat. If you are flying the American flag in international waters, which means you're operating under American law, which allows firearms. If you were flying the Mexican flag at the end of the story, you wouldn't be allowed to keep firearms, unless, you know, you have the proper permits, and I don't know Mexican. That aside, you could also, on a larger boat, you could also make like a small portable garden that you could take inside or outside. You could have a couple vegetables, or a few vegetables. You could grow that. Just don't make it too big, too heavy to be able to bring it inside or outside. You know, you can grow small amounts of veggies, and then you've got pretty much unlimited fishing. You've got pretty much unlimited water. And the ocean is not lacking in the wind department, so you could definitely be mobile whenever and wherever you really want. So, yes, sailing or getting a sailboat for a homestead, or should I say boatstead, would be an amazing idea, although it's actually probably cheaper than buying a homestead, to be honest. Get an older sailboat. Get an older sailboat for relatively cheap. Obviously, new ones, I mean, if you, let's see here. I'm not saying to go out and buy a brand new Beneteau, Bavaria, or Catalina. You know, you can go out, Catalina, I think they're a little bit cheaper, but Bavaria, Beneteau, I'm not saying go buy one of those brand new. You're going to spend upwards of $1 million or more on a big, good luxury boat, and something tells me a lot of people here don't need luxury. They just want efficient, effective equipment, and that's what I was saying. Beneteau makes really good boats. Catalina makes really good boats. Don't know a whole lot about Bavaria, but they are some of the bigger brands, and they do make some big boats for big money. Not saying you have to go buy a brand new one. You can go out and easily buy a 1970s, 1980s sailboat that's 53 feet or in that area, smaller or larger, for a decent price, for a lot cheaper than you can a good homestead. That's fact. I've seen plenty of larger sailboats for sale for quite a bit cheaper than you can get for a homestead. And like I said, boatstead, if you will. You can live on them full time. long term. And you can make them self-sufficient, self-sustaining vessels. And if I can, I will try to screenshot some listings and I'll include them in the video. So that way, if y'all are interested at all in any way, shape, or form in getting into sailing and using it as a means for your prepping, then you can go check it out. You can get an idea. And guys, you can even get sailboats for free. Now, free ones, there's a big disclaimer on that. A lot of them need work. A lot of them need work, and a lot of them need a lot of work. But they're free. And if you have time, patience, and the money over time, you can fix them up and make them into the perfect boatstead